Naongea, actually I'm talking. All right, good morning, welcome back. It's now 7 on the dot. Welcome back. Being a Wednesday, let's talk about numbers. We want to take a quick whip on the numbers, what it really matters to you when it comes to your pocket. We are talking about the Finance Bill 2026-2027, and that will be tabled in Parliament tomorrow. The key highlights where we have the shortfall and where the government needs to fill the gap so that we move as a nation. There is just so much that I want us to talk about. The journey, remember what you had in 2024. What are some of the changes that we have had so far? The quantum stands at around 4.48 trillion shillings that the government intends to collect in the next financial year to keep the operations of the country running. I'll be joined in studio by my guests who are already shortly, CPA Peter Mwanja, who is managing partner of Ronald's LLP, is already in studio. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
You're well?
Very well.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
Okay. Let me take you, as usual, on the front page of the local dailies before we get to the discussion. On the front page of the Standard says absurdity. Just one word. Absurdity. All right. The Standard says that the High Court judgment that upheld Rigathi Gachagwa's impeachment, while awarding him 50 million shillings for violation of his right to a fair hearing, has triggered a legal firestorm, pitting some of the Kenya's prominent lawyers against the judiciary. The age-old maxim that justice must not only be done but also be seen to be done has taken center stage, with legal minds firing on all cylinders, terming it absurd, dangerous, and a constitutional contradiction. So they warn that it could weaken protections from fundamental rights and embolden future abuses of power. It has also ignited debate on whether constitutional violations can be compensated with cash while the tainted outcome remains intact. That has been the discussion for the last 48 hours. We also had the discussion here yesterday, and Wakili said that they were going to go to the Court of Appeal. There were protests of Ebola yesterday in Nanyuki and Laikipia, where it is also confirmed that one person was shot dead by the police. The case in point here is that PSB talk moved at state rules out schools closure. John Otoga, that is the President William Ruto, has reshuffled principal secretaries, reassigning Professor Julius Bitok from the State Department for Basic Education to Tourism, while Tourism PS John Lekakeny Ololtua moves to the Education docket. That is what is here. According to the notice, Bitok leaves the Ministry of Education's Basic Education docket for the State Department for Tourism under the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. This comes amidst chaos that we've seen in the country, where schools, so many of them have been sent home because of arson attacks and fears of the same. Sifuna seeks to nullify ODM removal move. That is Nairobi. Senator Edwin Sifuna has asked the political parties' disputes tribunal to declare the Orange Democratic Movement resolution removing him as Sekjen unlawful. Through his lawyers, Senior Counsel Isaac Okero, Sifuna told a bench led by acting chairperson Gad Gathu that the National Executive Committee, that is NEC, was passed without giving him a chance to defend himself, rendering it invalid. That is on the Standard. Finally, on the Star, opposition and lawyers poke holes in Rigathi ouster verdict, almost the same thing as that on the front page of the Standard. If right to fair trial is infringed, you set aside the hearing. That is one of the assertions by the opposition and lawyers here. Ruto overseas trips bring in billions in investment, says spokesperson Hussein Mohammed. And finally, let's talk about what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. The same thing. Gachagua defiant. Gachagua defiant. Democracy for Citizens Party, the leader rejects 50 million shillings award, terming it an insult. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has vowed to fight the High Court decision that upheld his impeachment, even as he announced a Apologies for that technical hitch. Now, let's come back to the discussion. Professor, I just need to get your response. I ask you a question. What do you make of this?
You see, 50 million, if you give me 50 million as a Kenyan, if it's my parents and something like that, people I respect, I'll take. But that 50 million is taxpayers' money. Why should people wrongfully remove someone from office, then force taxpayers to pay them? I mean, why? When will it end when people just make a mistake, but they don't pay for the mistake? This the citizens paying for the mistake. How many Kenyans are sleeping there hungry and you're awarding somebody 40 million for a mistake that Kenyans didn't make? I think that there's some, I see there's impunity in this country.
Okay.
Like, for example, some people say their rights were violated. It could even go to the compensation of people, victims of very many bandamanos. Then the person who did it has nothing to do with it, but taxpayers' money is committed to paying them. So I see the Gachagua situation as a circus which was created, and Kenyans will pay for it. But I also believe that Gachagua could not get his ruling right now, because if he was to get the ruling he was expecting, it will cause a constitutional crisis. I predict, at the end of the day, after the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court hearing, the court will rule that Gachagua was unrightfully taken out of office. It will be too little too late. Remember the ruling on the majority in Parliament. When they did that, actually UD or Kenya Kwanza don't have the majority, it was too little too late. So that will happen. BBI was the same thing. They do the right thing, but they do it when it is too late.
Yeah. Okay. I had to start with that for all the obvious reasons. Okay, let's come back to this. So tomorrow is a very important day, gentlemen. The Parliament will get to understand what is on the table for the country, what you're going to spend in the next financial year. When you look at the total budget, it stands at around 4.8 trillion shillings, and that is what the government is proposing. Peter, when you look at this figure, what do you make of it? Achievable or an overstretch?
Well, thank you, Victor. First of all, it's a humongous budget. 4.8 trillion. It's not a small figure by all feet. Of course, a significant increase from the current year's budget. But when you look at it, when you look at the numbers and the projected revenues, you get the feeling that the government is becoming a bit ambitious when it comes to the budget. Most clearly is on the projected revenues. You know, we are seeing an economy almost, shrinking in a way, because the GDP percentage being projected at 5%. Yet the revenue estimate is quite on the higher side. So from where we stand, we believe the government is not being realistic, and especially in light of what is also going on in the rest of the world. We have the Middle East crisis, which has really disrupted our supply chain. So companies are not able to get their inputs and raw materials on time. The cost of fuel has gone sky high. And all these are factors that will affect the ability of businesses to operate, to make profits. And these are the profits which are then taxed for the government to earn revenue. So for you to have this kind of a budget, whilst not putting into consideration the impact of all these external shocks, we find it a bit overambitious.
Okay. Prof, what do you make of that?
Yeah, first of all, if you want to make it, you see the budget projection being put, as he says, 4.8 trillion. From last year's budget,
which is 4.3.
4.3 trillion. You can see within 1 year, that budget has already grown by something over 40%. So if last year, in fact, the best way to look at it, look at this administration holistically. They took over the country when the budget was 3.1 trillion. Now, they have reached, within 3 years, they are now doing 4.8 trillion. That's about 60%, 61% increase in budget. But I want to introduce a new language. Don't call this thing a budget, call it expenditure, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
They're going to spend 4.8 trillion. Why is it called a budget? Is that within that same proposal, there is a way to raise this money. But the 4.8 trillion is not a budget. That is expenditure. Now, how can expenditure be growing at 61% while your revenue is growing at 5%? Run any business, whether it is just a kiosk, whether it's a school, whether it's a hospital, whether it is, let's say, even trading, and your revenue is growing at 5.5%, yet your expenditure is growing at 61%. You are literally not in business. And then if you look at I'm seeing a figure here of budget deficit, 1.1 trillion. And then they are projecting to collect 3.6 trillion. Now look again, last year, they projected to collect around 2.9 trillion, thereabouts, and they did not collect. There was a deficit of 815 billion deficit in the collection. The projection from KRA, they went short by 815 billion, meaning with the projection here, again, add that budget deficit, add another 850 billion, you realize that actually the actual budget deficit, if they don't lie to us, is 2 trillion. Now, 2 trillion is not a figure that you have seen. Have you seen 2 trillion in your pocket, or have you met it walking on the street? It's not an easy thing to do. So these projections will happen. Then I can tell you now, Victor, I'm an economist. I've seen how these guys do budget. I've seen how their current administration does their budget. Mid down the line, they'll come with another supplementary budget. And that supplementary budget will increase again. This figure will, by the time we finish the year, this figure will be doing around 5.2 trillion. And that's what happens. So what I'm trying to say here to Mwananchi, I was a young boy when Moi was a president. There's a way we used to read a budget. Actually, Moi never read a budget. Moi used to read a price list. He used to say that today, unga will be 80 bob. Bread will be 25 shillings. So what we don't know is, how does these numbers we are reading here impact the common man or woman when you go to do shopping? Because can you tell me how much bread will be after this budget is read? But Moi used to read for us a price list, which was very important. That's why you can see during that time, many people used to buy newspapers because you'll see a price list. You'll go and look at, listen to the radio, TV to see a price list. We do know how to translate how the cost of living will look here. We can't tell how much employment will be. We cannot tell how many industries will be built after this one. We are just being told expenditure. And I want to say something for me. For a fiscal health, let us live within our means. We are beginning already by living beyond our means. Kenya has hit a debt ceiling. In fact, nobody wants to lend money to Kenya now. And yet we are projecting that we can actually borrow almost 2 trillion. I think that the best thing to do is let us even put the MP salaries on GDP. Because some people are living as if the GDP does not have impact on them. Whether the GDP is low or not, they earn a lot of money.
Okay.
Let us cap each and everything on productivity of the country. Let us not just say we must spend this money because we must spend it and because we can approve it.
Interesting breakdown there. But Peter, you can just give us a quick journey where we are today. We are in the next financial year. And when you look at the journey on how Kenya has grown, you'll talk about the GDP, our expenditure, the deficit, we have got the external borrowing, the domestic borrowings. All these things put together affect the final outcome of what the country needs to spend. Take us through the journey, having in mind of what happened in 2024.
Yeah, interesting perspective there, Victor. Of course, we all know the situation that happened in 2024. I think it was one of the most chaotic periods for our country, and of course the finance bill 2024 was one of the most highly contested finance bills we've ever seen. And I think there was a good reason for that. And the reason is that the Mwananchi, or the common Mwananchi that we make or allude to, Wanjiku, has gotten to a point whereby they feel they have any additional wiggle room when it comes to the ability to pay taxes. So they've gone to a point where they have no more capacity. They cannot absorb any additional taxes. Yeah. And that is the reality of the situation in the economy right now. Remember, the statistics show us that the spending power by this common Mwananchi has shrunk about 12% in the last 5 years. So the income, the taxes are rising, the cost of living is rising, but then their real income has been reducing over the last 5 years, which sort of presents a very huge challenge to the common Mwananchi. And that's why we are seeing from this current finance bill, the government is, yes, not introducing so much new taxes, but then when you look at some of the measures that they are proposing, they seem to be very keen on tightening the compliance, or enforcing. Let me use the word enforcing compliance. When you look at some of the tax procedure changes, you find that the issue of teams and e-teams has really become a pain to common Mwananchi, because what they're saying, Victor, is if you spend even 100 shillings in a kiosk, that kiosk should give you a teams compliant invoice. So then the government has almost real-time access and real-time visibility of all transactions that are taking place in the economy. So we are seeing a government so keen and intent on really enforcing compliance. And remember, enforcing compliance is not the ideal way of tax administration. We should be having a situation where there's voluntary, the taxpayers are being encouraged to voluntarily comply with their taxes. And I think globally, as we look at the global best standard, the best standards globally, where there's sort of voluntary compliance, then the cost of compliance also reduces on the side of the government. So really, Victor, when it comes to the Mwananchi, I think everyone is in a bad place when it comes to taxes. Looking at the GDP numbers, as Prof here said, we should have a situation whereby we tie some of these statistics or even salaries to our members of parliament to the performance of the economy. And I think also that is the same thing that we need to do when it comes to taxes. We cannot be ignorant and say, we want to raise XYZ extra billions or trillions in terms of revenue, yet the economy is not expanding in the same way.
All right, Prof.
Yes.
That's a very good breakdown. But then, has the government become a little bit creative on how they're fixing their things from what happened in 2024?
Yeah, of course, you see, first of all, there's a lot of distraction, distracting people from what people should be talking about. Because the typical Mwananchi do not want to hear all these suckers you see in the newspapers and the media. What is important to them is, can they put bread on the table for their kids? Can they take their kids to school? Can they be able to afford a hospital? And that's why, Victor, I came up with the 5 tests on how to check whether this budget is working or not, without being biased. The first test is, does it lower the cost of production? because there are people who produce, who can create jobs for people. Does this budget or even the finance bill lower the cost of production?
Yes.
It doesn't. Second, does it create jobs and livelihoods for people? After this, I ask you, how many jobs are being created? You'll hear CS reading, just like the CS before read, that we have frozen employment. And they'll read this one without worrying. You've frozen employment, yet your budget is growing. Can you tell how someone moves from a 4.2 trillion budget to a 4.8 trillion budget and employs nobody? It's like a husband who says that his salary has increased by maybe 90%. Yet nothing is happening at home. No one can have better haircut. Nobody can go to a better school. Nobody can be able to have better healthcare. I think it's a joke. Then the third one is, does it encourage value addition?
Yes.
Because we are exporting a lot of raw materials out of this country, and that's not fair. If our taxes go there, eventually you'll see this impact on the economy directly. Does it attract productive investment? For example, how much foreign direct investment is coming to Kenya after this budget? Remember that some people, as we did this budget, Tanzania is reading a budget.
Yes.
Uganda is reading a budget. So if you're an investor sitting in London, sitting in New York, we'll be looking at saying, from these budgets of East African countries, where should I go and put my money? They are looking at, because the government speaks through the budget. The government speaks through the budget, so investors are looking at this budget saying, where do I go now after this budget? And lastly, does this strengthen trust, transparency, and fair taxation? And that's, for me, the most important. That's what Peter is talking about. Does it support transparent, fair, and just taxation? Because you are strengthening compliance, but you are not strengthening fiscal discipline. Money is going to be leaking in the economy. Then you're telling a Kenyan to pay. So as you strengthen compliance on collecting, why don't you strengthen compliance on spending?
Yeah.
Because actually, Kenyan problem is not a revenue problem. Kenyan problem is not a more money problem. Our problem is expenditure problem. When expenditures go beyond our means and people don't want to look for a way to ring-fence these expenditures, then we have trouble. And I can say that people who have entrusted with running this country, they make themselves wealthy, they keep Kenyans poor, and that's why expenditure goes how to take care of them. And I think the shift should be that a leader should eat last. Citizen should eat first. You can't be a father that you go home and after you have eaten, until you are snoring in a chair, then ask, have kids eaten? You can't do that.
Yeah. That's a different crazy analogy. Okay. Mary, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
You found the men have already warmed the room for you.
Thank you.
We are not snoring, we are working.
That's great. I'm sorry for coming late,
No, it's okay.
but I'm here.
It's all right. Mary Mukami is a SPAC member and also AWAC member. AWAC is the Association of Women Accountants of Kenya. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
So we are just getting into it. 4.48 trillion shillings. Last year we had 4.2, 4.3 thereabout. There's a very big variation there. But Wanjiku still feels that something is working. According to the gentleman, there is no dollar in the pocket, but whatever the government intends to spend has gone up.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same?
Yes, where I am, and being one of the person who has to bring the food in the table.
Yes.
It's a bit stressing. So to me, what I can say, we are not supposed to plan what we do not have. And then at the same time, we need to ensure that whatever we collect, there is accountability of everything we are doing to mwananchi, so that if, as we do the project and as we aspire to go to Singapore, we are, even as we are feeling that joy in our pocket. So where I am, I'm feeling the pressure like an ordinary mwananchi.
Yeah.
And our prayer is there will be discipline in whatever we are doing in terms of budgeting. Accountability is supposed to be there, and also transparency in whatever we are doing, especially on revenue collection. And other resources we are getting in our country. Yes.
Okay, great. I think that's point. Let's take a break. When they come back, we'll talk about budget, no food, putting food on the table, but I want to give you tea. For us, we have enough budget.
Yeah, sure.
No, we want to give you tea. Stay with us. Much more after this. All right, welcome back. So today we are talking money matters and how we are going to be surviving as a country for the next 1 year. So now, Peter, let me ask you a question. We are looking at a deficit of, looking at the figures, the fiscal deficit is around 1.14. That's give a round figure of 1.2.
Yes.
With domestic borrowing standing at 995, that's almost a trillion.
Almost a trillion.
A trillion.
Yes.
And then external borrowing is 148 trillion.
Billion.
Billion.
Yeah.
What does this really show you?
Well, it's a significant deficit, obviously.
Yes.
But for me, the most or the major concern is that intended borrowing domestically. Because
domestic borrowing?
Domestic borrowing.
Okay.
Because you're talking about almost a trillion. And Victor, normally what happens is that if the government is in the market borrowing from banks, the same banks me and you borrow from, the same banks, SMEs and other businesses borrow from, we'll have a case of what we call the clouding out effect, meaning banks would favor sort of borrowing or rather lending to the government as compared to the businesses. And the ripple effect of that is that we'll find ourselves in a situation whereby the local enterprises, the businesses are not able to access capital or loans due to the fact that the government has already taken a very significant portion of the available resources as borrowing. And as a consequence, we'll have the capacity of the economy growing becomes hugely affected, because if we are saying that enterprises who ordinarily are risky to lend to, and there's always this analogy that the government is a risk-free borrower, the banks will always favor lending to the government.
Yes.
So what happens then is that us as enterprises, as individuals, are not able to access capital. And what that means is we are not able to finance our businesses. And we are not able to finance our businesses, it all means that our output as a country would be negatively affected. So for me, the intended local borrowing is where we have a problem. And of course, it's always the ideal situation whereby we don't have a deficit. But I don't think the last couple of years, probably more than 10 years, we have not seen a situation whereby we have a balanced budget, whereby we are able to finance our budget entirely from the resources that we have.
Yeah.
We're always having this hole that we have to fill. And obviously, as we talk about our debt crisis, the fact that we continue to borrow then, it makes the situation even worse. So we'll get to a situation whereby there will be no wiggle room, even for future administrations, because we have literally hit the debt ceiling. But the fact that we're borrowing more locally than externally, I think that presents a very serious cash flow crunch to the economy due to the fact that local enterprises will not be able to borrow.
Mary, when you look at this, what does it really give to the financial institutions of the country?
So when we do a lot of borrowing internally, the financial institution, most of the financial institutions are going to, the way he has said, to rely on the government, because the risk of default, it's very little. So as much as the financial institutions are going to grow like banks, they are going to report high profits. Still, remember, the bank also, they get money from the deposit from the ordinary Kenyans.
Yes.
So when the economy shrink such that the SME are not able to give as much as possible in the economy, still they will feel the ripple effect in the final profit. But the economy also, it's going to be affected in a negative way because now the growth is going to be small. In fact, most of the economy are doing very well because of SMEs.
Yeah.
And when government tends to borrow more domestically, it means now even these SME, they won't get money to finance.
There's a priority.
There's a priority.
Right.
So the best thing we can do as a country, as leaders, we need to look at, be disciplined on how we are spending. We should be also disciplined on the expenditure, how we are using the money, so that at least we can give something to the SME and that they can grow the economy and make the money move in the circulation. Yes, that's what I can take, yes.
Deputy Governor, Machakos County, Mheshimiwa Francis Mwangangi, thank you so much for joining us as well. I'm looking at a figure here. In the 2026-2027, the Council of Governors is pushing for an allocation of 534.96 billion shillings for the county government. That is the equitable share at 420 billion shillings. That's a very big increment. We are talking about economy and governance. You don't listen to Wajiko?
No. First, thank you for the invite. Secondly, I thank my panelists. And I don't know what is happening around our city. It's not the same city I've known for these years. There seem to be a lot of jams everywhere. Coming to the question, I think I'm on record. And I'm not saying this simply because I'm in devolution space, but I'm one of the advocates of the faster transformation of this country. That means a lot of decentralization, leaving very little amount at the central level. That is the best way to go. Meaning, if today we have at least, if I wish the drafters of the Constitution framed it in a way that we started at 40-60%, with a view to, in another 10 years, coming to 60-70 vis-a-vis 30. That way, we can grow the economy and ensure we have enough for everybody. So what I'm saying, the over 500 billion you are quoting there is too little compared to what we are proposing as our country's budget. Now, whenever I advocate for devolution, very many people will come up with these stories that, you know, some governors are doing this or that. You know, that is not here nor there. We have institutions like DCI, like ESCC, like County General, Parliament, regional assemblies, who can do a perfect job in terms of oversighting, in terms of investigating. And that is not even a reason enough to deny, particularly the person at the village level, services like basic services like ECD, like agriculture, like a dispensary, like even a village road. I think we need to look at the fastest way to develop this and transform this country. Secondly, allow me to comment on, before I go to that other point, please allow me to say this. We have regions that are historically perceived to be marginalized. Yes. And it is not a perception, it is a reality. We have, even in this Nairobi, they are not equally developed. And then if we have a strong functioning devolution with the resources, I can tell you such gaps can faster be bridged. Allow me to weigh in on something that my colleagues have commented on, the issue of government, particularly national governments borrowing. We always talk of austerity measures, and I saw a professor. He was very much, and he is always articulating for good governance, and thanks for that, Professor Ongola. JCs, part of their revolution was how large some of us in public space are living beyond our means. We are killing our SMEs. I wish we could have a law to ensure national government or county governments do not go borrowing from the private sector.
Yes.
Allow these financial institutions to interact with our SMEs, our existing businesses in private sector, and ensure we have resources that can be borrowed that are not that expensive, are affordable. So that
you mean they should stop all
almost immediately, because our main problem is our guys at the top are the same people who are looting public covers, channeling them to their financial institutions and lending it to the government. It's a fact. We are the same people, and that is where Africans, we are shooting ourselves to the foot because we are looking at a faster way to be the billionaires of this world instantly. That is where the problem is.
Okay. Prof.
Yes.
What do you make of that? Because talking about the PPPs, I mean, when you look at even how government operates, right now the government is giving a different approach, that PPPs should be part and parcel of the economy and having that major focus. But with domestic borrowing hitting that figure, then it means that it's going to be something quite different again in the next financial year.
Yeah, he's right, because that's the point when Peter was talking. I wanted to say exactly what my brother, Deputy Governor, said, that
Yes.
Who owns banks in Kenya? They are owned by politicians. So when they are owned by politicians,
Right.
what they do is that they are looking for business for their businesses. So that's why you find thereby somebody signing a deal on behalf of government with the left hand, and on the right hand, that deal is going to him, is the one signing with the right hand. So that thing whereby what the right hand gives, the left doesn't know, that was only in the Bible. But in Kenya, the right hand knows what the left is doing, and that's what they're doing. So, for example, the current president owns a bank, isn't it? Deals are flowing through that bank. So who is signing on that side? It is him signing on that side. And he's signing on this side, government to borrow this amount of money. So I want to make you picture this. As Kenyans are sitting here discussing about these people's expenditure, and they're telling you how much they need money for each and every item in their life, plus the car they're driving, plus the food they're eating, while the Kenyans are sleeping hungry, and there's no one discussing that budget. And that's why, as an economist, when I was working at the European Central Bank, when we were having challenges with the pigs, that is Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, we came with the strategy to do household expenditure projections, and you do budget from the household. Does the president know how many households in Kenya? I know there are 12,500,000 households, isn't it? What is the education expenditure per year? It's an average of something like 48,000 per year on the lower class. On the upper class, they spend around 250,000 per year on education. We have around 4 children per household average. You understand? How much they spend on food, on healthcare? If we start from there, we can budget better. And in fact, you can even know what the big government is trying to say. I've always been against what's called national budgeting. I always look for regional budget. First of all, do you know how much Machakos County needs to actually, just as a county, to operate? Do you know how Taita Taveta, Tana River needs? Do you know how Kiambu needs, how much Siaya needs? When we start from there, is when now we make these things important. But they talk about national budget and tell you they are focusing on national priorities, but actually they are political priorities, not national priorities. Like if you look at how they're putting money here, they are more political. Tell who is the heaviest spender, who is going to take more money. So as far as I'm concerned, domestic borrowing brings high interest rate. That's clear. Because government has low risk, so government will borrow at a lower risk. Everywhere else will have a high risk. The interest rate in Kenya is 24%. We are competing with China, which is 2.9%. How can you beat them? Secondly, there's slow economic growth because money does not go where jobs are created. Money goes on trade, on the commercial deals. Debt servicing cost will go up normally, and then of course inflation and reduce investor confidence. Because if investors know that you are borrowing from inside your own country, they are not having incentive to come from abroad to bring money. But if you can bring external borrowing happen, Kibaki with the stroke of the pen, I was Kibaki's economic advisor. Kibaki simply said, the government will not borrow inside. I saw people who used to work in the bank left their jobs to go and set up businesses because that gave them lower interest rate. Banks were pitching tents in hospitals. They are still pitching tents in schools. They're pitching tents on the street, looking for interest, looking for debt, also looking for people who can borrow, people to open account. Now banks sit pretty and borrow to the government, and they eat the money, and then they laugh at us.
Peter, let's just bring it back to Wanjiku's side. What does Wanjiku really need to understand about what is going to happen from, tomorrow and, of course, taking effect on 1st of July?
Yeah, so thank you, Victor. I think for Wanjiku it's quite simple.
Right.
And I would say the future looks a bit bleak for Wanjiku, in the sense that we are seeing a government that has a very huge appetite for taxes, yet ignoring the day-to-day realities of Wanjiku. We are seeing a situation whereby the government has very ambitious plans to collect taxes, yet not putting into consideration the other sort of effects in the economy. What happens when you raise taxes and reduce the spending power of Wanjiku, and what else then happens to the economy? Because everything has a ripple effect. If, for instance, today, Victor, your income or your spending power is reduced, it means the places you shop, the companies that are likely to, that produce the goods that you consume, will also have an effect. So we are seeing really things looking very dim for Wanjiku from a spending perspective, because they will have lower disposable income. And of course, there was a proposal initially before the finance bill was published, that will have the pay-as-you-earn bans, for instance, being revised so that then we can shield Wanjiku a little bit. And I think the proposal was that for incomes up to about 30,000 be exempted from taxes. And this would have been a very, very sort of proactive and forward-looking proposal. But then again, when the bill was out, some of these proposals were missed out. And we're wondering, is it that the government is ignorant of Wanjiku, or is the government out of touch with the reality of the common wananchi? That is the question that we're asking.
Mary, our work is quite central when it comes to Wanjiku, pun intended. Does Wanjiku really have to understand what is happening? And if so, what does it really matter to Wanjiku?
Very painful, very painful. Wanjiku has to understand, and already they understand what is happening. So, like the way Peter said, we have a government which do not know what is happening to the ordinary mwananchi Wanjiku. And that's why you can see, you come up with a policy, and implementation of that policy becomes a problem.
Right.
So this government, or the regime which we have, it's good to be to speak the truth. We need to listen to what Wanjiku is saying, because we are so much squeezed. Even if that pay-as-you-earn bandits increased, still there will be a problem, there will be a ripple effect in our pockets, because now there is and other additional cost which has been brought in.
Yeah.
Already you don't have even money to do investment. You don't have money to start your business. When it comes to VAT, everything is vatable. So at the end of it, disposable income becomes very little, and even the cost of living increases, it's going to increase, and mwananchi Wanjiku becomes poorer and poorer as days are going.
Yeah.
So what are we supposed to do as a wananchi, as a Kenyan, together with the government? So the government has to listen to what is happening on the ground. Thank you. We have our governor here. So please let's listen to what is happening, what is how Wanjiku is seeing, so that at least we can make the life bearable to Kenyans. It's outside, it's very painful. I have an example. For me, I do SME, taxation on SMEs. I help them in bookkeeping. I help them in managing tax planning. Where we are, as a mwananchi, even the business is not manageable in Kenya. So
it's that serious?
Yes, that's serious. I deal with Mama Mboga, I deal with Bonda Bonda, I deal with the shopkeeper. Most of them, they are closing their business. That's how things are. So let's listen and let's act.
Okay. An interesting bit. I think that we don't need to sweep that under the carpet and assume that just a statement. A quick idea or picture what it's like all about, because it's the same Wanjiku who is going to be taxed to bridge this deficit.
Yes.
And to get the 4.8 trillion shillings. What is the picture down there?
To be honest, the picture down there, it's horrible, it's bad, it's tough. Because whatever you are doing or the business you had, for example, like Mama Mboga, there is a research I did 2016. 2016, by that time, Mama Mboga could make a profit per day of 10,000. Yes. From cutting the boga, from selling tomatoes, danias, and all those. You could get 10,000 per day. But nowadays, as we are speaking, even 5,000 is a problem. So the lady who I was helping her to manage that business. As we are talking now, she closed the business because she couldn't manage the cost. She couldn't manage to manage the business and at the same time pay the cost for the school. So I don't know what happened. So that is how things are. Things are bad. When it comes to shopkeepers, the shopkeepers, they get that 50 cent, 1 shilling, and when they pull them together, they becomes a good amount of money which can run their business. As we are speaking now, even some of those shopkeepers, they are closing their business because the cost is becoming unmanageable. And now that's why we want to say the government has to listen, the government has to act. From the top, you can give us the figure that the economy is doing very well, 5.3% growth, but realistically, things are very tough. For me, I had a client I had like 20 clients. As we speak now, all those clients have lost their business. I've left with 10 clients. So as days are going, people are becoming poor and poorer and poorer. So there's something which is very, very tough.
Victor, Victor, let me just make...
But did you just hear that?
No. Let me just... this is what we have just said. We are operating in a country where some people are sitting in a 5-star restaurant and they are eating heavily, then passing the bill to someone who is eating in the kiosk. So what do I mean by that? The expenditure for this government has grown from 4.2 trillion to now 4.8 trillion, but the economy has not grown at that level. I take you to 2022, when it was 3.1 trillion, now we are doing 4.8 trillion. And the economy has grown only by an average of 5%. What does that mean? is that they are growing how much money they are spending, but they are not putting money where these people like Wanjikus, the Morars, they can actually be able to fetch from the economy. By the way, I don't like calling people Mama Mboga, because my mother has not given birth to Mboga. I just call people, let's say you are doing a market, open market sales, because, no, I mean, I'm sorry, you know, there's some language which are not very good to use, by the way, let's be honest.
Okay.
My mother gave birth to Fred, never gave birth to any Mboga. Is it kunde leaves, or it is vegetable, or it is it's cabbage? What I'm trying to say here in short, let me give you a picture of a typical Kenyan. Before, let's say you used to have 1,000 shillings. For 1,000 shillings, 500 you took to rent. 200, you do those other payments you make, that's 700. 100 was for your breakfast. 100 was for your lunch. 100 was for your dinner. That's make 1,000, isn't it? Now, the cost of living has gone up, isn't it? But this 1,000 is still your income. What's happening? You miss one meal, isn't it? When you miss breakfast, there's somebody who was selling that breakfast, isn't it? They miss revenue. When you eat one meal a day, the person who was having money from you for lunch and breakfast misses revenue. She told you she had 20 clients. I'm sure you could afford a few things in life. Now you have 10 clients. 10 clients have left you, they are down under. So we are trying to say, without listening to household expenditure, how the typical Mwananchi feels the heat of the economy. And for you, adjusting and saying 17 billion for State House, isn't it?
Okay.
And then this one for, I don't know, this one. That is the problem. So I'm saying budgeting should be done bottom up if we are running a bottom-up economy.
Thank you.
It should not be done top-down.
Thank you.
Then you're telling us you're doing bottom-up economy.
Did you hear what she said? When you look at the counties, and you are also going to, you're part and parcel of the economic growth. And when you hear us speak, that Prof doesn't want the word Mama Mboga, but that is the word we are used to, okay?
Sorry.
What does it really show you? If you can just do that in 1 minute, if you can.
I'm on record on this show saying the policies of the current administration have brought massive poverty to this country. I'm again on record saying most of the businesses, multinationals, have moved. An example is Samsung. They used to have regional headquarters here in Kenya. Now they have moved to South Africa. Kisa na maana, high taxation regime that is killing businesses, bringing a lot of poverty to our people, because many people, when these businesses relocate, they lose their jobs. Once they lose their jobs, they have got no any economic gain. It is as simple as that. We are feeling the heat because we are with the people right at the grassroots level. I think we might have maybe somebody at the higher level, like either one of these panelists as a president of this country, who instantly will issue 2 decrees. One, if you are at from a certain level going up, if you are a senior manager in a public sector going up, enjoy public services. If it is healthcare, go to a public health. There is no maneno ingine. If it is education, take your kids to your local public school. Okay. So that public sector does not come somewhere to go and enrich yourself. Right. There is a lot of suffering at the grassroots level.
I'm told that there's a function that we need to take, a live function somewhere after 8. So is there hope for Wanjiku? 10 seconds.
Yeah, I believe there is. As I said, the future is not looking very bright at the moment. But I think we need to keep the pressure on the government to ensure that the policy being formulated is, considerate and realistic of the situation on the ground, and putting these common Mwananchi at the very center.
Prof, DG says that one person should be there at the top as the president. That is a prayer to you directly.
Yeah, because you see, I'm running for president, and I know the Kenyan problem is economic, and we have the silver bullet, which is creating 100,000 jobs per county, grow county by county. For me, that's the silver bullet to solve the debt issue, to solve unemployment issue, to solve the interest issue, to solve inflation issue, and to solve the currency exchange to have power and become globally competitive.
Thank you.
I know the problem, I know the problem, I know the solution. If you appoint me, Victor, I'll not disappoint you.
I only have one vote. I know where it will go. Mary, tumalizie, is there hope? You said that you're the one who put food on the table.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, there is hope. Always there is hope. In this life there is hope. But the hope will come if we change. We change from the leadership. We ourselves, we are the one who brought this leadership into the governance. So we need to look for right people who can account for what we are collecting as a country. And when we do this, we are going to align everything as according to how things are happening on the ground. For example, we can take an example like Kibaki regime.
Yes.
The country was doing very well, but people had lost hope. Parents had lost hope. But the moment he took over the governance, things changed. Kenya were ranked as people who are happy.
Yeah.
So still there is hope. If we, Kenya, we can change, and how we can change this, it's bringing the right people in the governance.
Thank you.
Yes.
I promise to call you back.
Victor, I know, less than 5 seconds. Please, let's have return of the National Economic Council with a similar entity at the county level. Secondly, ensure we live within our means and stop public sector from borrowing heavily from private sector. Thank you.
Deputy Governor, Machakos County, thank you so much for joining us. Sir, Mary Bukami, she is ISPAC member as well as the Association of Women Accountants of Kenya, that is AWAC. Professor Gola, also here an accountant, an economist, and the governor's expert. He says that he has got a silver bullet to change this in 2027. I repeat, I only have one vote. I know where it will go. Peter, asante sana for coming. Peter is managing partner, Ronald's LLP. Let's take a break. GMK continues after this. Good morning.